Remember, revenue is not a goal. Revenue is a result. But a result of what? In this show, we turn our eyes from the output towards the inputs. We speak to sales leaders and entrepreneurs about their journeys. Join our quest to uncover and learn the root causes of success. Let's unpack what works for us and what works for others and what doesn't. Today, in my show, and I'm super proud to have you, Dee Acosta. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. My pleasure. Thanks, Stephen. Excited. We've known each other virtually for a while. It's good to be talking. This is an important subject, I think, especially right now, for all revenue leaders, whether you're in CS, marketing, or sales. So excited to discuss.
I'm super excited to discuss this with you. You mentioned sales and revenue leaders. Do us a favor, introduce yourself. Who is Dee Acosta? Who are you? What do you do? And why are you so successful?
Yeah. So long story. I actually grew up in South Florida, in Miami. My father was a programmer, so I was exposed to tech really before my,
It runs in the family.
classmates were. Yeah, and I've heard all the stories. It's been a pleasure growing up with it. But my career, I moved to Boston to finish school. I started off at Fidelity Investments doing data entry, and it was driving me crazy. So I started off as an SDR, first at an appointment setting company, and then at Forrester. During the Great Recession, my first AE sales job was at Aberdeen. So talk about an unusual time and tough market. It was a tough market, but I did very well very quickly. I was one of the top reps going into it and learned a lot. Back then, SaaS, people were still figuring out that SaaS was a real thing.
Absolutely.
It was still hard to implement.
Absolutely.
Most people my age and up didn't start in SaaS. But we sold research, we sold demand gen. We really had like 2 products when I started.
And it's the days when Challenger sales was born.
No, this was before.
Yeah.
This was before.
Out of the recession in 2008, when they realized everybody stopped selling overnight, but there was a small group of people still selling. And this is when
Absolutely.
Matt Dixon had the once in a lifetime opportunity to observe this and figure out, why are some still selling?
I want to give you a virtual hug for bringing that up because it's my favorite sales book. Changed my career. So my first 3-4 years at Aberdeen, was using a lot of older sales methodologies and a lot of hard work to win deals, and it worked. But I then went to 2 startups. I moved to Minnesota, which was horrible, but that's another story. And it was a very different sale, and it just they neither were for me. They were selling. I didn't like Minnesota, and they were selling to higher ed, which is very different. They were selling to recruiters, which is different. It's more mom and pops. And at that time, I read the Challenger sale, and that did a big impact on me because it made sense. It was data driven. And like you said, we were in the recession and people were still selling.
I think that was the first time, if I think about it, that was the first time that there was a sales methodology of not like, look how I did it, but that was actually based on data.
It was based on a lot of data,
Yeah.
And it had great stories, like the Granger story. I still read, every month or two, and it made sense, right? We all know the lone wolf, the hard worker, but the challenger is what works. And today, like I'm still really hesitant on other sales methodology. I love gap selling, like Medic and MedPick. I'm like, this only works if there's high demand for your product. So I came back to Aberdeen, was immediately a $1 million rep. I was there for, I think, an additional 6 years. They adopted SaaS solutions. So they inherited the Hart Hanks customer intelligence database. They created a content SaaS solution, like some really good ideas. I was the only person that could sell them. I'm not just saying that. People were challenged, but selling them. But the as an organization, there was just not enough investment in those products and in that process. And something I've learned is you can't, services and technology are so different. You can't pluck a service rep and expect them to sell technology. It just never works. Yeah. It takes a lot of practice and training. So they really should have split the teams, but there wasn't investment or patience for that. So learned a lot, got my demo skills. I then went to Metadata. I got their mug right here. Awesome company. Highly recommend them. Had a great experience there. Learned a lot. Some really great sales reps there. The team, Olivier was the president. Clay was a VP of sales. Danny Reed was my manager, actually, and he's an incredible salesperson. And Gil is brilliant. But left towards the end of last year. Some things going on in the market you may be aware of, and they're so tied to ad spend. And then started at Hockey Stack. I was at Hockey Stack until very recently. I did leave. Great team, great technology, but very early stage startup. I'm not sure I would have been there long term anyway, but have a lot of things cooking now. You'll see a new title, I'm sure, before the end of September. But there I headed revenue, and that was a really good experience.
I think we are down to less than 24 hours for that.
Yeah, right. End of September. Probably got like 2 weeks, but yeah, it was great team, great technology. Highly recommend them to anyone. They're addressing a challenge that's huge in the market, and we'll talk about some more. But it was also a great learning experience about how important it is to tie marketing, sales, and customer success together. And as soon as egos get in the way.
Yeah. Let's dive in there. Step me through like your. I don't know at what liberty you are to talk about Hockey Stack. Excuse me. Let's talk real quick about your perfect sales process, the way you would run this. Step me through the whole sales process from lead gen over closed one to expand.
Yeah. So I'm going to be a caveat here. Everyone's buyer is very different, Stephen. So, I've worked with countless, at Aberdeen, I had the pleasure of working with demand gen sales leaders, product marketers from Tableau software, Fortinet, HPE was a big client. Each of these buying cycles is different. Each of the buyers is extremely different. A security buyer buys much differently than a sales tech buyer. You're talking about different sales cycles, different prices, different implementations. So I don't think there's like one overarching, sales methodology that works.
But would you agree that there is
maybe not methodology is the wrong term, but sales process that works, right?
Yes, but would you agree that there is a universal buyer journey? I'm totally with you. It doesn't matter all that much how we sell; it matters how they buy. Jaco van der Kooi from Winning by Design has documented and brought, at least to my attention and to attention of a lot of people, a universal customer journey that goes along, awareness. It's damn, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Over education, let's Google for a solution. Selection, hey, look at this, we should book a demo. And then that looks great. And then onboarding and, impact, expand. Would you agree that there is a universal buyer journey through which? No?
Absolutely not. No. And I know people that have worked for Jaco. There's, people get a little high on their own supply sometimes. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend that sells disaster recovery software and hardware. He goes into a lot of his account lists. His account list is 20, 30 companies, and they're already contracted with another vendor, right? So there's only, maybe 10 vendors in the space, and they're contracted with a competitor for the next 2 years. So they already know who the 10 vendors are. That entire awareness, is pointless because they already know who you are. At that point, it's a really sales-led journey to build a relationship, pivot to the, classic challenger sale, pivot to those differentiators, and then drive that. And I love brand. Brand makes everything easier. There's nothing like someone picks up the phone, they know what company you're calling from. Brand gets people excited, gets people dedicated, but we're also in a market where the impact of brand is probably less. People are looking for the quality of the solution. Is it easy to use? Does it work? Does it have the integrations I need? Implementation quick, and then, price. So everyone's talking about consolidation. Well, I'll pick on Zoom Info doesn't have any of their solutions. They're great company, like really good stuff, good people there. But, any of their solutions aren't best of breed, right? Their data is not best of breed. Their call recorder is not best of breed. Their Their chat isn't best of breed. I know the inventor of the chat there. He's brilliant, but it's not, qualified level chat.
Mhm.
But it's easy to implement, right?
Yeah.
You probably get a cost savings because it's all consolidated. So, that's what organizations are looking for. So like, I love brand, build a brand. Brand is cheap to do too. Like, you have a content team. I think content's incredibly important. Everyone fired their content teams when
True.
they could have used content more
Yeah.
than ever.
Yeah.
But, you know,
Well, I know a
what's,
lot of companies who fired their sales team because
oh yeah,
growth wasn't there.
they were
That
just,
like,
they were just trying to keep
yeah, that's
customers.
gonna
They're just
help.
trying to earn. Yeah. Yeah. And, there's like, there's just really, there's sales led companies, there's marketing led companies, there's technology led companies. Nobody appreciates the other role because
Mm.
they think they're working the hardest. But yeah, brand is important, but like, CrowdStrike, right? Like, CrowdStrike has a great brand, but they're not buying CrowdStrike because of the brand. Sneak has a
Mm.
great brand, but they're not buying Sneak because of the brand. If you look at AWS, like, AWS has really not spent much on their branding, you know,
No.
their logo,
Speaking of
their,
AWS, let's talk real quick about your favorite tool stack. And
yeah,
again,
yeah.
let's go from left to right, from lead gen down to closing and beyond. Step me through your favorite tool stack.
Yeah. So for lead gen, metadata is awesome. If your buyers are primarily on LinkedIn and social channels,
Mm.
they're great at running AI to determine what ads turn into leads. They
Mm.
are a great solution. I'm a big fan of Apollo, and not just because of the cost, because everything is there and easy to use.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of competitors out there, but why keep it challenging? Gong is great. There's a company called Attention that I highly recommend. They record your calls and then autofill your CRM, which is fantastic. I think that's so important because you're not going to remember this stuff.
Yeah.
And call summaries, AI call summaries, are going to forget stuff.
And I'm
So,
terrible at taking notes while I
no,
talk.
no,
Terrible.
you look like you're not paying attention. You
Yeah.
look like you're a waiter. So it's bad, or you're clicking away. So they're fantastic at that. I think they have a really bright future.
Mm.
We are at a point where in SaaS, you're going to have to show the product on the first call. So we're going to have to do demos.
Mm.
A's are going to have to do demos.
Mm.
The SE is going to be more of a product, maintaining the demo environment, training, and being on heavy technical demos. So I'm a
I'll
big fan.
challenge you here. I have a not very popular opinion, and the opinion is screw the demo. Demos are.
I used to think that.
I say demos are, again, not for everyone, but in a lot of especially in the higher annual contract value segment, the buyer
Mhm.
is not the user. So the question
Yes.
is, if the buyer is not the user, why do they need the demo? One reason might be they don't believe it works. So you have to show it.
Yeah.
But showing that it works is one way. I mean, if you're getting a heart surgery, it's not that the doctor is showing you how he does it, right? There are different
Yeah.
testimonials. There's a lot of ways of showing that it really works. Or you are not very good at explaining what it does, and that's my main critique. I think a demo is always a conversation about how it works, but what you want to have is not a conversation how it is, not a conversation how it works. It's a conversation why you should buy it.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I used to think the same thing, and I used to be confident that any demo in SaaS couldn't keep up with our personal apps. But having been a buyer and having done 1,000 demos, people want to see the product. And why do they want to see the product? It's just in our nature. If you're going to buy
Mm,
something, you want to see it.
mm,
So that first call, like 30 minutes, can be you know 5 minutes of small talk, 15 minutes of discovery, 5 minutes of value proposition stories, and then 4 minutes of demo, but you have to show some product.
Mm.
And then additionally, you have one SE and 10 sales reps. That's that technical call, right? That second demo to actually get in the product. You might have to do that, right? If the client is in Germany and your SE is in California, you're probably gonna have to do that on your own. So it is beneficial to share it.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, and I agree a lot. And then I've been on the other side, and this is mainly for SaaS,
Of course.
infrastructure hardware, it's different, right? Infrastructure software is different. But, so I had a company that was really recommended and wanted to bring to the team, and they set me up through the SDR, answer all the damn SDR questions. Okay, whatever. This actually happened to me twice. And got on with the AE. The AE had no notes, right? That whole communication was just dropped. And I said, just show me. I didn't want to go through discovery, right? I know exactly what I wanted. And, kept pushing back on showing the product. And I'm like, just show the damn product.
Yeah.
Just show the damn product. Like, I've now spent 2 hours.
Mm.
So, sales is very direct, right? Marketing can be direct too, but you need to be able to show the product. And people are usually coming to you with a pain, right? What's that pain, right?
Yeah.
Is it, I can't see my pipeline. Our customers have slow performance, right? I need more better data to set more.
Is there any
calls.
tool that you recommend for running demos, or just?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Testbox is fantastic. Most of these live demo environments, they are Chrome plugins or screenshots, which, you show me a screenshot and be like, is that a screenshot? And they'll be, yeah. I said, I want to see the real product, because that's duplicitous. Who knows? Right. Stephen? I don't know what you're showing. This could be vaporware. And then the Chrome plugins, they're slick, but we're going to see a clamp down on Chrome plugins because of the security problems with them. And then, LinkedIn is they're eventually going to say no scraping from LinkedIn. So all these SaaS sales and Chrome plugins are not going to be around forever. And I've told Apollo that. I actually know Apollo's VP of product, and I told Surf that. They just came out and they're like, oh, we're logging your LinkedIn messages. And I'm like, yeah, you think Microsoft wants you doing that? No.
Yeah.
You think they want you gathering that data?
Yeah.
No.
Are they pronounced Surf or Surfy?
I just call it Surf. It sounds better. I'm American, so
Yeah. I was just thinking of Nike and the E on the end. Okay, but Surf. Are you using Surf?
No, I don't.
Because I'm a big fan.
It's great, but those plugins read all your keystrokes. That's at any in place with strict infosec. That's not getting past. That's not getting in.
Yeah, true.
And then the challenges with bot security are I've supported bot security companies. What was the company? Can't remember their name. It's a big problem. So I've been kicked off LinkedIn 3 times for using too much Apollo. You need to be real careful. And Microsoft, they make that money off the data and the advertising. They don't want you to scrape it. So it's a matter of time. Yeah, these plugins that we love are huge security liabilities, and I think small business doesn't realize how much, right?
Speaking of being kicked off of LinkedIn.
Oh, but let me just discuss Testbox. So they sit on your UI and they mirror that UI and they auto-populate the data using ChatGPT. So what's cool is if you update, you update your SaaS solution, it reflects that. It just looks like the UI. And then you can also create tours. You can create sandboxes. SEs have reporting to make sure, hey, what's being shown much? Are sales reps showing the right things? It's just really slick. It's what I would,
nice.
One of the top things I would invest in. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
If I was SaaS company.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the problem that we deal with company data from our customers. And it's confidential data, so I have to be super careful when I share a screen that I don't share somebody's data, and that's always a challenge. But you mentioned that you've been kicked off LinkedIn 3 times.
Yeah,
let's talk. Me too. I sued my way back in.
Yeah, I didn't have to do that much, but I just used Apollo too much. That was it.
Yeah,
that's all I did.
I was the victim of trolls who were just gang up on Telegram and then mass report me.
Oh my goodness.
And
Yeah.
that would keep doing this, and everything on LinkedIn works automatically, and there is no real support. They're
Yeah.
just
Oh, there's no
underpaid
support.
gig workers who send
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
pre-formatted text blocks that makes no sense. And
Yeah.
I ended up taking them to court. Luckily,
Oh
I'm
wow.
located in Europe and in Germany, where this is relatively cheap and fast.
Yeah.
So, but still, it was a couple of €1,000, and it was 3 weeks, 4 weeks without LinkedIn. And I realized LinkedIn is more
Wow.
important than email, and LinkedIn is my
Yes.
entirely address book.
Yes.
Like there were
Absolutely.
a bunch
It's
of
your Rolodex.
appointments I couldn't take, I couldn't cancel because I
Yeah.
didn't even remember the name of the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. That's horrible. I'm glad it went fast. Here it would have taken like 2 years
yeah,
to.
yeah, that was very efficient system that we have over here. But speaking of failures like this, tell me a little bit about the stuff that you did that worked in creating pipeline and creating results, and tell me a little bit about the things that you tried and that totally did not work.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the last two orgs, Metadata and Hockey Stack, what worked extremely well, what I preach is organic social. Now, both of them have buyers who are on LinkedIn
Hmm.
all day, so it's easier. But creating content that creates buzz is worth it, right? And it's pretty easy to do. You just find a video editor and you come up with an idea and you say, "Hey, we're going to do this." And with both companies, that helped create a lot of buzz. Now, that buzz was great for pipeline, was great for filling demos, but buzz wears off.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
hard to keep that buzz forever. So, that buzz is a great way to get launched, but then you need real product marketing.
Yeah.
And product marketing must understand the buyer. Preferably, they have some experience in the buyer's shoes. I've known some of the best product marketers out there. Ellie Fields, she was at Tableau. She's at SalesLoft now. Paul Ross was headed product marketing at Alteryx. He's at Affinity now. Charles Goldberg, amazing. He was at Talus, and now he's at Pure Storage.
Mm.
And, all these are friends of mine. Prosh has been at product marketing
Yeah.
at IBM and now Informatica for like the last 10 years. And what they're able to do is they intimately understand the product, right? How it works, how it's used, and they understand the buyer. They each, if we went, they travel with sales. If we went to Japan, I had bad sushi and was sick, they could run the closing call for me.
Mm. Yeah.
Of course, they're not, do the pushy sales stuff as much as I would, but they could run it
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And that's because they have an intimate knowledge of the buyer and they have an intimate knowledge of the product and how it's used. And yeah, there's so many more. Haley Panad is now at Apollo. She's incredible. I worked with her. So you really have to hone in on that messaging about your product to the buyer, that buying process. And you have to be able to do it in a way that pivots to your differentiators, highlights your brand. And you have to be able to do it, across formats. So, you know, buyers are of different ages, right? Different
Yeah.
backgrounds. We all consume content differently.
Yeah.
So, I love lavender.
Oh yes.
Love lavender.
Yes.
Yeah. They're selling, primarily they're marketing to, 20-year-old sales reps and SDRs, us old guys like, do we really need that? And then that groundswell they sell up. So it makes a lot of sense to do what they do,
Mm.
and they do it extremely well.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
but they get Jen Allen, Knuth on the line when it's with that, $100,000 deal to get it out to a sales team of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And they do produce written content. They really do, produce written content, you know, data driven written content. But, those videos, right? If you're selling to CISOs, right? If CISO is your buyer, right? If you're selling to, a developer, those videos are good, but they should not be maybe your tip of the spear with marketing, because it's not going to work. So,
Yeah, I think
content is
Lavender
important.
is a
Yeah.
typical land and expand product.
Yes.
Very much
With
like Slack. You start for free, and before you know it, there's a whole bunch of your people on Slack, and now suddenly you need the paid version to keep the
yeah.
archive and so forth. Yeah, sneaks their way
Yeah,
in.
and they're selling to a bunch of sales reps that want to get better, right? So who literally look at LinkedIn all day.
Mm.
But I was at B2BMX, and they sell medical products and they sell software for IoT for medical devices. Like, their buyers are never, they're rarely on,
Mm.
right, Stephen? They're rarely on LinkedIn. There's medical journals and stuff like that, but they're reading those journals. They came up reading, so it's really important, to so that buzz is going to create a lot of funnel, but you also have to eventually support that with product marketing, and you want to have someone with experience in the my Alexa just went off. Experience in the industry. I've seen actually power users become good product marketers. So those are things you want to do. You want to cover all the bases. I used to be against content syndication, but if it works, it works. Ads, if it works, it works.
What did not? What did you try?
What did not work?
And I always like the stories where it took a long time to figure out, oh, that's not working. I thought it did.
Yeah. So, couple things. Ads definitely took a dip towards the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I love ads. They work well, but they're expensive, and it takes a lot of iteration, experimentation.
Let's dive deeper. What type of ads?
Primarily, so display ads never work,
Yeah.
Unless you have money to throw out. But primarily social ads, so LinkedIn, Facebook.
What about
Meta.
retargeting?
Yeah, I kind of put retargeting in a different bucket. Retargeting,
Interesting.
absolutely. Like, yeah, I put it in a different bucket because retargeting is like they've already engaged with you, and like, they probably know you. I would still be cautious on display ads and retargeting, but YouTube retargeting is great. LinkedIn retargeting, if you can harness that data. It took a dip. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means you have to like refine it, and maybe you step away from it for a little bit.
Yeah.
I've sold lots of content syndication. I've heard of it working, but that is a numbers play. Good content works. So you're seeing own media. I think own media it's kind of like it's just content, right? Like, it's just good content, right? So I think of Gong Labs, and Gong Labs created incredible empirical content, right?
Yes.
With really great people.
Yes.
And Devin Reed is now doing that at Clary, and Chris Orlob has started his own companies. And that I like data. Just tell me the data.
Yeah.
Tell me a story and tell me the data. Don't do fluffy stuff. Like, the fluffy stuff, I'm just like too old. I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah.
So that type of content works extremely well. I'm actually doing a project for an agency to deliver that, just as a friendly, thing to do. So really good content. And then, once again, organic social creates buzz, if your buyers are on there, right? I'm a big fan of going direct to publishers too. So one of the best marketers I know, and I know a lot, Ledlena, she used to be at Sneak. She's at Solo. Yeah. She's brilliant. She would go direct to the publisher, and she would say, hey, I want my ad here, and I want leads from this, and I want content from that. And that's a cheaper way to do it. And you can.
And have you done this yourself?
I've not done it myself, but I've recommended it, and my clients have gotten good results. But yeah, it takes, hockey sack was attribution, and the goal is, hey, we can see what's working at the end of the day. And, marketing can be a dispassionate advisor to show the data. This is working. This isn't working. Right?
I came across a framework recently. Nothing revolutionary new in it, but I loved the simplification. And there are only 4 ways to tell people what you do. Number 1, you can do this one-to-one or one-to-many.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do this to people who know you and people who do not know you.
Yeah,
careful.
Absolutely.
Not people you know. People know you. We spoke about brand earlier. If they know your brand, they think they know you. So those that makes it automatic, which ends up with you only have 4 possible combinations of that. And I like the definition. The definition of cold is if the first contact is a one-on-one.
Yeah.
Think about this. Cold calling somebody, the first conversation is one-on-one. Right?
Absolutely.
Cold email, Even if you do a lot of this,
Yeah.
it's one-on-one because everybody receives their
Yeah.
email in their inbox. It's a one-on-one. So whenever the first contact is a one-on-one, it's cold. And
Yes.
if it's one
Absolutely.
to many, then this is how they meet you. They see you somewhere on social is one to many, and everything deriving from this is warm. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think so. You just need to test. You need to experiment, and you
Yeah,
need to see what works. And there are some things that are evergreen, right? Like think about like brand, right? Brand is
yeah.
evergreen. A good sales pitch is evergreen,
Social is
but it
evergreen.
really, yeah, it really, you really have to determine what works. And it's not just work to get leads, right? It's work to get opportunity, meaningful conversations and opportunities
Yeah,
created and move those sales
yeah,
down the
yeah.
pipeline.
And we are
It's
back to
not
the
just like,
roots. We are back to the roots from, I believe, the 90s. The Cluefest
yeah,
Manifesto, markets are conversations. This was a wonderful
absolutely.
conversation with you, Dee, that I very much
Yeah.
appreciated. Before I call the end here, real quick, your 3 lessons for the audience. If our audience can take 3 things home with them today, what would that be?
Yes. First is the data, right?
Yes.
The data should not lie. People can look at it differently, but always lean on the data. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to make a decision because of the data, right? But it means if you're going to make a decision, check the data first,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
The second is, working at startups, founders are under a lot of pressure, right? Because you got to be kind of crazy in a good way to put your life on hold to build a business and tie your future success, your children's college,
Yeah.
your retirement to a company. And it's easy at startups for people to get emotional.
Yeah.
Um, so, Gil told me, do something altruistic before you have a big conversation. So come to, be altruistic. And if you're going to have that hard conversation, be altruistic about it. Be like, hey, hey, man, have positive energy. Then go back to that data and make that suggestion, right?
Yeah.
Have that hard conversation.
Yeah.
The third thing is, so marketing has a lot of power now, right? And
Mhm.
deservedly so. But what we're seeing is more sales led. So at big enterprises, companies are saying, "Hey, we need to have more meaningful conversations." Is the most powerful metric, right? A
Yes.
conversation that you know
Yes.
has juice to it. Maybe they can't buy now, but you build a relationship and they're interested in your product. I'm a big fan of, like, there's 2 sales cycles. There's the traditional one that we measure, and then there's the covert sales cycle. But it is incredibly invaluable to have a sales rep who can create a process, who can speak to clients as equals, who understands the client's pain, and can close deals. A lot of the younger generation, not all, there's some great, Brian Lamana, for example, there's some great sales reps, Cat from Sixth Sense, but they kind of lost that, right? They kind of became order takers. We as salespeople, we can create demand ourselves, but we still have to identify, capture,
Hmm.
right? Have that
Hmm.
conversation and convince,
Hmm.
back to the challenger sale. And I think that's why we're seeing, enterprises double down on content syndication. And we're seeing companies kind of go more sales led. Vendor had their SaaS trends report, and the most acquired new product technology was sales intelligence.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, we've all
Yeah.
been sold something we didn't want. It's very hard to do with us, but, I'm trying to think what I have here. Like, cars
Man,
always like,
lavender.
yeah,
Yeah.
lavender. But I like the personal thing. So Stephen, like, I don't know what car buying is like in Germany, but went to the first car. Guy was okay, but the car was kind of small.
Yeah.
I was like, let me think about it. Went to the second car, was ready to buy it. Horrible experience. The manager wanted to punch me. He was like tiny. Went to the third, and I said, this is my budget. This is the car I want. We worked it out. We're off by 1,000. I pretended to stand in the door to say I get $1,000, and I got the car, I got the deal, and it's like, why did I like working with him? I told him exactly what I wanted. I want to know this is the price. This is no hassle. I don't want to test drive. I just want to buy the car. And he did his job convincing me, and I still trade emails with him. I'm like, hey, how you doing? When's the new Subaru coming in? And I'll buy another car from him because he knows how I buy.
Dee, it
So,
might turn out that we sellers are terrible buyers.
oh, we're the worst. I don't want any bullshit. I'm like,
Yeah.
but do you like researching stuff, Steven? Or you like, for
Absolutely.
your personal, like you're buying a new TV? Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan of the whole theory and the storytelling behind jobs to be done, and how we
Yes,
yeah how we have that first moment and second moment, and I
yes,
love those stories. I love doing jobs to be done interviews. I recommend that for every company. You can A/B split test as long as you want, but sometimes if you can just call a
yeah.
handful of customers and ask them. It's that easy.
I know. Like, why are people?
Yeah, just pick
Why
up
does
the
that
phone
happen
and call
for?
them and say, well, why did you buy this? When did you
Yeah,
first think about it? And I love the
here's
stories
a
behind
here's a
the,
gift card.
yeah, yeah,
Like you're a customer.
yeah. We
I
should do a follow up just on talking to customers and learning from customers, and not only from data. I'm a data person. I have a data startup. I have a data company. I'm an expert in analyzing sales cycle data. Yet
yeah,
it's
I
only
love
it's
it.
only data. The story behind this is just call them and ask.
And you could find out so much, and people buy differently.
Yep.
I've been harping on this, like, gender, age, background. Like, we're global. You're in Germany. I'm in the US. I've done business in like every continent besides
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you and I have
Antarctica.
more in common than I have with
Yes,
any of my neighbors in my village. Like,
yes.
yeah,
And yes, and I'm assuming you have children.
yeah,
You're on vacation.
yeah,
Like, I was on vacation last week. I
yeah,
have a child.
yeah. Like we
Like,
know the same people, we read the same books. It's true.
yes, it's
I absolutely
crazy.
agree. The village we live in is not in you cannot measure it in miles. It's measured the touch points that we have online. I totally
So
agree. Yes,
the
yes,
the car analogy. I drive a Subaru.
yeah,
It's whatever.
yeah,
My daughter's mom drives a beautiful car, BMW iX.
yeah,
hundred thousand
yeah,
dollar car,
yeah,
like sketchy
yeah,
technology.
yeah.
Cutting edge, and it's like I would not buy that car. And
No, I
she's like,
wouldn't. I can't. It's
yeah,
from
yeah.
Munich. It's from Munich. I live in Stuttgart. We cannot buy this. Uh,
I love BMW, but I would not trust them with any new
no,
technology. I
for
would
me,
definitely go to VW.
I'm only allowed to drive Porsche, Mercedes, Benz. D. All right, everyone. That brings us to the end of this episode of
Yeah,
Speak Revenue. I want to thank our guest, Dee Acosta. That was a wonderful session.
yeah,
Thanks for joining us today, sharing so valuable insight and stories. A huge shout out to all our listeners. Your support means the world to us. Remember to check out our website at speakrevenue.com for a full transcript and additional resources. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave a review on Apple or podcast or wherever you go for your listening needs. It really helps a lot, and it helps to get the word out. Follow us on LinkedIn and soon on Insta. Maybe soon even on YouTube. We'll be back soon with another guest. Until then, stay curious, keep listening, and keep growing. Thanks. Goodbye.